I have the latest story from, or rather in the series, the latest story. I'm up to March 27 from Ezekiel Kralin. They're going for the jugular is the title of this. This begins email correspondence March 27th to the 29th. Subject, Wednesday's meetup, superb, continued. Date, March 27th, afternoon. She held a small beige purse in one hand, which appeared extra diminutive in contrast to her sausage fingers. "Hi, where's Deke?" she queried, obviously because she recognized the dogs and knows their owner. I assumed she's a member of the homeless outreach team or helps run that tiny cabin village or something of that sort. "Oh, he's out running errands," I smiled back and replied, "so I watch the pups for him now and then. He also does it because I love their company so much." "Is he still living at that place?" she asked, meaning, I suppose, the cabin. "Yes," I replied, while scritching Lucky along his spine. "Isn't that great?" "Well, tell him Tiana said hi," she said before stepping away from her vehicle. "I certainly will, Tiana. You have a lovely day now. Thanks." I enthusiastically obliged. I made a point of making her name stick in my mind, but alas, nonetheless wound up forgetting it by the time Deke returned. So I'm calling her Tiana for purpose of this tale. I decided then we had sat out front long enough, more than 2 fucking hours. So I returned cardboard blanket and bowl upstairs, then took the Brindlekin for another stroll along Noe Street, though this time for only 20 minutes or thereabouts. Upon returning, Deke still hadn't shown up, so I thought, wouldn't it be nice to sit out front by Super Duper at one of their tables? I chose the only 4-person spot they had, located between their door and the wooden divider that separated my building's front gate from their establishment. All the other tables were 2-person setups in a row of 5 along the other side of the glass door. But they all have those cold aluminum chairs to sit on, just like the one I have upstairs. What a coincidence. Including the table I selected, which didn't go well with Flacco, whom I sat upon the chair next to mine, so she instantly scrambled onto the table, because made of wood. Her brother was already resting by my feet upon the small backpack I laid down for him. I was planning to have Flacco sit on my lap, but she didn't understand I had to first enter the restaurant to place my order, so I lifted her from the table and set her back down on the seat, but she kept trying to claw her way onto the table. She only stopped when I removed my hoodie and placed it on the chair for her to sit on. I tied their leashes to the inner table leg before stepping inside, and was pleased to see them through the plate glass window quietly biding their time as I examined the menu. Naturally, I had no intention of purchasing something to eat due to my frugal nature, and had planned all along just to get a small coffee. "We don't sell coffee," the young employee replied, then listed off all the drinks they do have. "Okay, I'll take iced tea, please," I told him, and with that, he rang me up for a whopping $3.95. I almost keeled over, but managed to grab the edge of the counter to steady myself, whereupon I begrudgingly handed him a 5-spot, but pretended to be your typical yuppie who thinks nothing of expense. "Thank you," I said when he handed me the change, then added 2 packets of artificial sweetener, stirred it up, and returned to my table outside. It was very pleasant to sit with the pups, Lucky by my feet and Flacco on my lap. But I wondered how much longer Deke would take to show up, so I made a point of nursing my drink, which turned out to be unnecessary, as he returned shortly after I sat down. "What are you doing sitting over there?" Deke came up to me and said in a confused tone of voice, as if it was the strangest thing in the world to do, rather than parking my ass on the sidewalk. "He's been living on the streets way over long. What say you, Watson?" "Well," I replied with some annoyance, because a stupid question in the first place. "You were gone so long, I thought this would be a nice change of pace." Then I held up my wobbly plastic cup of tea and noted, "Though you could have saved me $4 if you showed up just a few minutes earlier." He then apologized for being gone so many hours, as I crouched below the table to undo the mutt's leashes, whereupon they rushed up to their master to receive his hugs while standing up pressed against his legs, curly tails a-waggin. "Oh, that's all right," I replied. "Hope you had a rewarding afternoon." "I sure did." He knew I meant that was my way of saying how much I always enjoy the dog's company, no matter how long or short the time spent. We moved back to the spot by the parking meter and below my window, and I returned hovel to bring the dog's comforter, cardboard, and a bowl of water back downstairs. He had a copious supply of fresh buds to sort out and place into baggies, which took him maybe an hour to complete while I returned upstairs to fix a late lunch. His sidewalk layout was once more almost neat as a pin, just like that picture I showed you 3 days ago, with the hounds sprawled out in doggy bliss upon the comforter. In short, another glorious meet-up. Friday night's report coming up soon, though. Not about Deke or the dogs at all. Subject: they're going for the jugular, re the lawsuit. Date March 29th, afternoon. I just got a summons that I must reply to within 20 days. Ridiculous, horrific, false accusations, 10 pages in all, which links I will send to my attorney in a moment. I'll probably have to come into her office tomorrow so she can make photocopies. It showed up in my mailbox today. Subject: now get this. Date March 29th, evening. Just minutes before I found that summons in my mailbox, Deke and Pups showed up. He called up his usual yo to my window, so I poked my head out, and he said, "He's back." "Who?" I queried. "Your manager," he replied, then pointed to my right at an old codger who had just hobbled out of a car and was escorted by some young fellow. Sure enough, it was Kevin. I was certainly annoyed at Deke saying that right in front of them, and pointing no less, but my Cajun drifter has a way of putting me in an awkward state before I even realize it, and this was just the latest. Oh, that's just dandy, I thought, with a sour spirit. Now I'll have to pass the decrepit old dolt on the way downstairs. Seeing as Deke would grow impatient if I waited for Kevin and helped me to reach the second flight of stairs before I left my room. Kevin was deeply bowed, with an arm around his escort, ambling up the first flight. Maybe bowed, like a bow. Yeah, ambling up the first flight, slow as a turtle. So all I saw was his bald, blotchy pate. Didn't know whether or not to bother saying hello, so I didn't. He may not have seen my face anyway, as he was staring straight down to lift each foot one at a time, like dead weights. I must admit I wasn't pleased to see him again in his corporeal form. Good physician. As I got close to them, I pressed myself against the left side wall, because the other side has the handrail, and maneuvered beyond them like a breeze. "Boy, that was great timing," I said to Deke upon opening the gate. "What do you mean?" he asked in puzzlement. "You're showing up at the same time as the manager." He seemed to not get it, so I dropped the subject. He already has a new bike and cart, as opposed to the bike and cart he acquired only 3 days ago, so I exclaimed, "Another bike already?" "The cart's as good as the last one, maybe even better, for it had a sloping cage over it, shaped like an upside-down raindrop, and about 3 feet high over the cart floor, which was 3 feet long and 2.5 wide. I just came by for more dog food," he explained, "and you can put new music on my chip." I embraced the pups, who were jumping for my hugs, so glad to see me again, but they were soaking wet, so I guess he had them out in the rain earlier today. He told me to hurry up, make it snappy, but I told him to stop it. I can't go any faster than I already do. "Give me 2 minutes, please," I said. "You should have dropped by a few minutes earlier. I don't cotton to people telling me to hurry up." Once back hovel, I grabbed 2 clean rags and called to Deke, "Dry them off." The rags landed on the sidewalk, but instead of grabbing them, he scowled at me and kicked them aside. "Bullshit! I got to get somewhere, and it's going to rain again soon." Neither of which was true, for your information. I wasn't going to put up with that, so I rushed back downstairs, collected the rags, and started to wipe the rain off their fur, upon which he started to scream furiously. I cut him off and told him, "You're the one slowing things down. I wanted you to dry off the dogs while I was upstairs getting things ready." He continued to put up a stink, even though I handed him back the rags, which he took, but instead of using them on the pups, he began to polish an extra pair of sneakers that were stored in the cart. To be continued.